Okay, sorry about that. Lord willing, tonight the study that I want to look at, a very short study, one that I've labeled Antichrist, and I'm sure we've looked at a lot of these verses before, but there's just a couple of areas that I was looking at again, and I thought I'd share what I believe some of these verses are talking about. And if you can hear me, or if you can't hear me, do me a favor, type something on the screen. I'm not sure if everyone is here in the room. Okay, Alfie is. All right, hang on one second. Yeah, so let's look at Antichrist. Maybe a definition first. Antichrist is really adversary, that which is in opposition to Christ. And I think we'll see, Lord willing, that it is the church. It is the corporate body. So let's start with 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin, there it is, the man of sin be revealed. Now, is that a man? You know, many people in the past, when we talk about Antichrist, they automatically assume that this is talking about an individual. Now, we know by God's grace, after looking at so many verses in the Bible, that the man of sin really is another name for the church. It's another name for Satan, who heads up the corporate body, who heads up Babylon, right? 2 Thessalonians 2:4, who opposeth and exalteth himself, that's the man of sin, above all that is called God or that is worshipped. It's not talking about Obama, Hitler, or any of these historical figures, or those that are living today, an individual, but rather we're looking at the Satan, who is a spirit being and who heads up the unsaved in the body, the church, and he is in opposition to Christ. He is the enemy of God, right? He is the enemy of God. Isaiah 14 verse 13, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. So there I think we're beginning to see a little bit, in terms of definition, who Antichrist is. It is he who exalts himself above the stars of God, the one who opposes Christ. And when does that happen? Primarily, when does that happen? I think we would agree that this takes place in a time that the Bible refers to as Great Tribulation. Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High. So we start to see all this language, opposeth, exalteth, against the Most High. So we know that Antichrist is the enemy of God, right? Welcome back, Michael. And then we see here 2 Corinthians 11:13. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers. Now, I think God is giving us a little more information on who Antichrist is. It's the false prophets, right? False apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. No marvel, verse 14. What's wrong with this thing here? Hold on one second. No marvel. Oops. Let's see if I can post this verse. No marvel, for Satan himself. Oh, that verse didn't post. For some reason, my let's see. Okay, let's try it again. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. There it is. And therefore it is no great thing that his ministers be transformed as the ministers of righteousness. So who is Antichrist? Who are they? These would have to be, that's the church again, right? False apostles, false prophets, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. So it has nothing to do with a personality, a character, as we've understood in the past, myself included. I think at some point, 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Okay, and then Lamentations 1:10, the adversary. So we're getting more information. The adversary hath spread out his hand upon all her pleasant things, for she hath seen that the heathen entered into her sanctuary. So now this is something that I wanted to point out. You see, the enemy comes from the outside world, but they become a part of the body of Christ. Does that make sense? In other words, God had given strict command in the Old Testament that the nation of Israel was not to mingle with the heathen nations. And if someone were to come into the nation, they had to be circumcised. So there were very strict laws that God had established concerning his people. But yet more and more you have these outsiders, they begin to come in. I think we've seen this over the years. They come into the church, the men of renown, and then now they begin to rule. They change times and laws. And so now the body itself is no longer faithful. That is, God is no longer guiding it once he brought the church into judgment. Okay, any questions so far? Like I said, this is not a long study, but I do want to try and get some tie-ins here that, Lord willing, might help us to appreciate some of these verses better. And then I'll offer a very small conclusion. Okay, now we'll take a look at the different names, the various names that God associates with Antichrist. Deceivers, false prophets, liars. All again, I believe, is referring to the unsaved church, the unsaved body. Many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. Shall deceive many. When does that happen? What's the timing of it? Well, I think again we would have to conclude that this begins with the Great Tribulation. For then shall be great tribulation such as was not since the beginning of the world. 2 John 1:7, for many deceivers, another name I think God is using here for Antichrist, the false prophets, many deceivers are entered into the world who confess not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. What does it mean? Can anyone help me with this? What does it mean to confess Christ? Or what does it mean that they confess not? How does one confess Christ? We'll take a look at a couple more verses that might maybe give us an idea. 1 John 2:22, who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ, he is Antichrist. So who denies Christ? How does one deny Christ? I guess is the question that I'm raising. How does one deny Christ? Or the fact that they confess him not as Christ? I gotta open up this Word document. For some reason it's overlapping on the right side. It's kind of hard to see where it ends, so I'll have to try and do this. Let's see. Okay. The ancient and honorable, he is the head, the prophet that teacheth lies. Notice the connection here. The lies. Who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? And the one who denies that Jesus is the Christ, it is the prophet that teacheth lies. So how is it possible that someone who claims to be a Christian, how is it possible that they would deny Christ? How do they deny Christ? Do they say, well, we don't know Christ? Or we never had any association with Christ? No, that's what many people might think on the surface. The fact that one has to confess Christ publicly, I believe, Lord, save me. And they might think that somehow they are confessing Christ. Can we begin to see that confessing Christ is really pointing to the idea, or it's pointing to the fact that one is faithful. They remain faithful to the whole counsel of God because God is holding them fast. They confess Christ. They identify with Him, even in a time when God is judging the church. Now remember Peter back there in Luke 22, and the Lord turned and looked upon Peter, and Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said unto him, before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. So Peter being used here, I believe, as a type of the church. Thou art Peter, upon this rock. That rock is resembling Christ, I believe, right? That is a picture of Christ. And the church was founded on the foundation that is Christ. Thou art Peter, upon this rock I will build my church. Remember that? And now this church is coming to a point where it is denying Christ. It is no longer confessing Christ. Why? Because God has allowed the heathen to come into the sanctuary, and now there is no truth. Christ is not there. 2 Peter 2:1. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that bought them. Now, can we see a tie in here? Hold on one second. Can we see a tie in here? Denying the Lord that bought them. God bought corporately the church. Corporately, the church belonged to Christ. And I think we would even go so far to say that God makes reference to the church as having been saved corporately. And then now it is no longer confessing Christ, so now it denies Christ. It denies Christ. Denying the Lord that bought them. And bring up, there was another piece of the puzzle. And bring upon themselves swift destruction. Okay. Beloved, 1 John 4:1. Believe not every spirit. Believe not every spirit, but try the spirits. Now this is the idea of, whether or not we deny Christ, we confess Him not. I think it all has to do with trying the spirits, allowing God the Holy Spirit to reveal truth, whether they are of God, because many false prophets. So there again, we're looking at Antichrist. Many false prophets are gone out into the world. Hereby, 1 John 4:2, hereby hold on one second. Hereby know ye the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesseth that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is of God. Every spirit. You know what's kind of strange here is that the word spirit. How does a spirit? Whoa. Hold on one second. Mic check, testing, 1, 2. This is outrageous. How long have I been off the mic? Can you guys hear me? Mic check. How long have I been off the mic? You know, this is a new Pal Talk that I downloaded. I had to reinstall Windows and everything. Uh, and I wasn't paying attention to the mic. Let me see if I get off the mic. It's possible that every time I hit enter or I post something, then I end up dropping the mic. Oops. Okay. Can you tell me other than the one that I just posted, Gregory? Can you tell me the last verse that you see on the screen there? The last one I posted is 1 John 4:2. Hereby know ye the Spirit of God, every spirit that confesseth that Jesus is Christ is come in the flesh. Can you tell me the last verse, or maybe even the last thing I said? Not sure if you guys were paying attention. I thought the mic was on. Hereby know ye the Spirit of God, even every spirit that confesseth not. 1 John 4:1 and 2 Peter 2:2. Okay. 2 Peter 2:1. I think you probably mean, right? I think I posted 2 Peter 2:1. I don't think I had 2 Peter 2:2. Let me check. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I guess I can pick up where I left off. So then basically let me go ahead and post. Okay. I see it. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. You're right. 2 Peter 2:2 is the last one that I posted. Many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. The way of truth shall be evil spoken of. Okay, so that's 2 Peter 2:2. So let me get rid of these verses here, and we'll come back to them later. Okay, little children, 1 John 2:18. Not too far to go. 1 John 2:18. Little children, it is the last time, and as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. Notice that, I mentioned earlier that the Great Tribulation, a time like no other, that would be the last time. Now, of course, the Bible makes reference to the whole New Testament church age as the last days, right? But nonetheless, there had to come a time. God had prophesied that there would come the Great Tribulation, a time like no other. The little season, time when God now would begin to judge the church. Okay, so what's important here, again, Lord willing, is the idea, I think, of, everything is important, but as far as trying to make the connection on how the church denies Christ, or how it is that the church does not confess Christ, I think we would say that it has to do with the falling away. With the falling away. When there is no truth in the body of Christ. Okay, let's take a quick look at a couple of verses here regarding mockers and scoffers, and then we'll end it. Little children, it is the last time. And as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come. And I think in this verse, is that talking about the New Testament church age? Or do you suppose that just the tribulation or the God's judgment on Babylon is in view here? As ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, future tense, even now are there many Antichrists. So even at the time when this was written, Antichrist, the adversary, was already in the world. It was active. Satan had always been, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. The main difference, however, is that God was keeping him in check prior to the day of the Lord. So Satan could not overtake the church prior to the time that God had appointed for it to happen. 2 Peter 3:3. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust. I think I posted 2 verses here. That's all right. 2 verses in the same post. Psalm 35:16. With hypocritical mockers and feasts they gnashed upon me with their teeth. And then Jude 1, verse 18. How that they told you there should be mockers in the last time. Last time, again, I think is first of all looking at the whole New Testament church age after Christ went back to heaven, or even at the time when Christ was on earth. But there was the one time, the Great Tribulation, the last days. That still had to come, and that's when we see that sin began to multiply, and Antichrist now they are ruling in the body. They are ruling in the corporate church. Psalm 35:16. I don't know how I ended up. Okay, I think it's probably my fault. I had Psalm 35:16 buried together with the other verse, but anyway, hypocritical mockers. There is a synonym again for Antichrist, false prophets. And notice Isaiah 33 verse 14. The sinners of Zion are afraid. Fearfulness have surprised the hypocrites. That's the mockers. Hypocritical mockers, the hypocrites. And notice here again, it is the sinners of Zion. It's not talking about those outside, right? So there again, I think we would conclude that Antichrist is really looking at the unsaved church that is Babylon. Okay, a short conclusion, as I said, which did not post, because there again, I think somehow, let's see. Let's try this again. And I should be able to post it all. There it is. So the Bible appears to be identifying Antichrist with the unsaved in the church. Antichrist is that which is against or opposed to Christ. And this would be the church again, right? As I mentioned, in tribulation, when judgment day begins. Okay, this is nothing new. A very short study. I guess you could call it a review. I guess we can call it a review, looking at Antichrist, the false prophets, denying Christ, of those who are not confessing Christ. Any questions? Any questions?